is that what the comment about interlanguage under
Exactly.
the do is?
Yes.
So you're can you elaborate on what
Sure.
that means a little?
So-
When I think of an interlanguage, it's usually the language that students create that is a stage toward an actual correct
Yeah, you don't really
speech.
need my elaboration of this, it's exactly the thing. It's a system of a language that is, we used to be kind of snooty about it and say,
Right.
oh, the language is not a good
not
thing,
good,
like
right.
students should get rid of it and become language speakers. No, it's actually a system that develops and it
So
has.
it's, so what it's saying is just let the interlanguage
Exactly,
be,
yeah.
and focus in on the key thing that you're assessing,
Mhm.
and not focus on extraneous
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah. So that's, I mean, I never, spelling in Greek is a nightmare. I never test for it, and I only correct it with high proficiency heritage learners
Yeah.
who should be able to learn how to spell.
I'm sure you know your
Yeah.
trade better than anyone else, because you've been working with the students, you know what is expected, you know what they need in the real life. So again, this is just very abstract and very generic things, and how you apply it to your real life situations is a little bit different.
So when does language not become recognizable as language? Whether it's Russian or Spanish
It's
or
a,
French?
it's a perfect point, and I think everyone who deals with research
Right.
or even teaching knows exactly that in fact in our professional language, in our professional credo, there are so many loopholes that really don't explain exactly how in day-to-day practices.
But they may have all the endings right, but you can't tell what verb it is.
Exactly. For instance, one of the phrases that always raises my suspicion in ACTFL guidelines when it says that intermediate level learner is expected to create with language. Yes, it's wonderful, but we all know once they start create with language, which is wonderful, it's creativity, whatever, but it's not the language that is actually recognizable outside of the classroom. They're speaking a language that is so derivative, which is probably completely not transparent to normal, like, or normal person, right? Let's agree that language is a communicative system, so it doesn't matter that probably native speakers do not understand you, but the language should be understood as a communicative tool, not just within your little class, but outside. So it might be still not at the level of highly educated native speakers, but it still should be some kind of construct and instrument of communication that is actually working as an instrument of communication rather than a way to be creative in the classroom. Yes. And I think it's a very fine line where you say, okay, it's perfect how you say it, but let's now start saying something else. But for instance, in Russian language, our students are so annoyingly self-centric because, again, it's very English structural sentence, I plus verb. In Russian, you do so many things around it. There is to me, by me, and lots of other ways of avoid I construction. So we have dative case, we have genitive case, we have accusative case, instrumental case to report I, to report subject situation. So whenever you hear native speakers, it's probably only 20% in their speech where you actually hear I, and all the rest is not I. So when you cross with your students to the advanced level, or at least when you are pushing them toward the advanced level, you want them to start using these constructions. Because without them, they will be, even though they will be transparent and understood, they still sound a little bit off. And they're not really producing.
But that comes with time and practice. That doesn't come immediately, I think.
Okay, let's move on. So, yeah, about the language, I think I covered it. This, I don't know how many of you do this. We're so pressed with language, with forms, with morphosyntactic analysis, and culture such a waste of time. And I often hear from expert teachers, culture? What do you mean? Like, I don't have time for this. And sometimes you would hear, for instance, it would be a student who would ask, how should I say peasant, крестьянин? And in fact, it's true, there is a word that corresponds to peasant, it's крестьянин, but no one in contemporary Russia would use it in reference to a farmer, contemporary farmer, because this word is allocated to 19th century agricultural worker who could have been even enslaved. So this is a very particular term, which is a kind of correspondence to the English word, but still, if you're referring to someone in the contemporary Russia, try to avoid this word. And teachers wouldn't even make a comment on this. And it's very important because, again, what do we impute? Language, culture, how we at least be careful at how we approach it. In another example, one of the students came up with a wonderful role play. They were presenting rodeo businessmen in Siberia. Whoever been to Russia knows that it's kind of really, it's like Martian thing. No one does rodeo in Siberia. So being a businessman, rodeo businessman in Siberia is fun, but it's unrealistic. So the teacher could have said something to the effect that actually it's wonderful, it's very creative, it's fun, but it's not like this. And sometimes it creates stereotyping that you don't really want to propagate. Another example, and I think it's very telling, when a native speaker who is not fluent enough in both languages or in both cultures, let's say this really in both cultures rather than languages, does not correct students when they say, oh, students perform the mother in the role play saying, don't play in the street. And the Russian native teacher said, no, in Russia, we do allow kids to play in the street. Which is like, yeah, we already know about stereotypes about Russia being so wild, and yes, now it's a new stereotype. Yes, Russian parents are so deranged that they like let their kids, yeah, look, traffic, yeah, go. No, we don't, and we actually share the same saying, but the word street, we have a different word for traffic street with a traffic. So instead of again, without analyzing what the students said, the teachers set a wrong cultural expectations and a wrong cultural representation that, yeah, Russia is wild, and the parents in Russia just want their kids to be hit by the car. So, incorporate it, and I find students' role performance or off-task behaviors very useful this way. It's like a springboard. They would be doing stalling or bears or red square, and you can jump off of their words of their role plays into more serious discussion. So now let's think about if we want to create a test, what we need to think about. What skills do we want to assess? And I can bring us to, let's get a little bit further. So, do you have different tests for this too, and how you assess them? Productive and receptive skills, or do you combine them on the same quiz, on the same unit test, or how it's done usually in your departments? Is it different, or is there, or is it the same?
The speaking would be different in the Spanish department, but we usually have a little bit of everything else on a unit test. And then we would have an oral exam.
How often do you have oral exam?
Oral exam just once a semester.
Is it semi-structured, structured? Do students prepare for this oral exam?
They
or-
get potential topics and they get their group assignments because it needs to be a conversation among several students. But it's really up to them how much they want to prepare and how they want to prepare. But they need to have a good conversation on a topic using the vocabulary from the unit and the grammar from the unit.
Are they giving more specific guidance in terms of you want them to argue, you want them to narrate, describe, or it's
We don't. We do give them a couple of questions that they could discuss on a topic. So for example, in a way it could be an argument because the topics that we give them is, let's say you're stranded on an island, so what are some things you absolutely have to have with you? And you want to express your point of view and also share with others and kind of come to a certain conclusion. And in all of that, you need to use the vocabulary that we've learned in the chapter about the different things that could be found in different stores, let's say. That's the type of exam we have in the Spanish department.
anyone else wants to share? We usually, we are lacking in the number of tests or in the number of hours we can invest into testing or proficiency or production. How many times we actually can sit down with students and talk and listen. And again, it becomes particularly difficult and very an easy question to any program director or any instructor who teaches above or at the intermediate, high, and above levels when you know that your students are supposed to produce paragraph long speech chunks. If you have 25 students in your class in 15 minutes, yeah, good luck to have them speak a paragraph long things. This kind of text, extended discourse, is pretty much non-existent in our classrooms. So again, probably the platform of Canvas allows it. It might sound a little bit odd, and I will show you what we do when students state themselves. Again, it's already not a real life situation. It's very framed and it's unnatural. You sit down in front of your computer, you talk to your computer. Yeah, it's not a conversation and it's a presentational model really, but again, how to go around these restrictions on time. And on the other hand, these goals that we set were clearly spelled out in our syllabus that, yeah, by the end of this year, by the end of this semester, you should be able, or students who are performing successful in this class should be able to produce language at the paragraph level. And this is ambitious to say the least. Communication modes, again, what do we want to check, what we want to assess, and what usually gets assessed? Of course, interpretive. Yes, it's so easy to give a test or have them listen to something and answer the questions. Interpersonal becomes a little bit more difficult. Again, it's what, once a semester when they come to us, and it's so always, at least semi-structured. So it's not really, really communicative or interpersonal at a very natural level. And presentational, how many of us actually have students present? Maybe again, once a semester, twice a semester, that's pretty much it. So, what our claims, how realistic our claims are.